Which of these conflicts did the T55 participate in? I'll give you a second. Look over all of them. That's right. It's every single one of them. It's one of the most mass-produced tanks in history, fought on nearly every continent, and became a symbol of Cold War armor. Today we're talking about the Soviet T55. When I say one of the most mass-produced tanks in history, I mean the most. Estimates range from 96,000 tanks to 100,000. That's a lot of metal. Chances are if you live in a post-Soviet country and you got a little bit of cash, you can probably get your hands on one of these. T-55 is the successor to the T-54, which is a Soviet main battle tank developed shortly after World War II. If you enjoy videos like this, please make sure to like and subscribe. The T-54 was designed to replace the legendary T-34, addressing the need for more modern, heavily armed and armored tank that could stand up to post-war Western designs like the United States M26 Pershing. Armed with a 100mm D-10T gun, thicker frontal armor, and a more compact silhouette, the T-54 was a significant leap in Soviet tank design. It featured sloped armor, increased crew protection, improved mobility, all while remaining easy to mass produce, as you can see by the numbers. The T-54 had a number of teething issues though, such as mechanical reliability, crew ergonomics, and fire control and gun issues. The V-54 diesel engine, while powerful and efficient for its time, suffered from overheating and frequent breakdowns during early testing and field use. It's also similar to the engine that's still used in Soviet tanks to this day. T-54s were also notorious for transmission and gearbox issues. The transition system was often difficult to operate and prone to failure under stress, especially in rough terrain. Tracks and suspension components wore out quickly, especially during prolonged operations or on rough terrain, causing high maintenance demands. One of the biggest issues the crews had with the T-54 was its cramped interior. The low-profile design made the tank harder to hit, but came at the cost of an extremely tight internal space, which led to crew fatigue and operational difficulties. Imagine trying to evacuate the interior of this tank while under fire. On to fire control and gun issues. The gun lacked an effective stabilizer, making it difficult to fire accurately on the move, and crude fire control systems meant there were no advanced rangefinders or ballistic computers, meaning gunners relied heavily on estimation and training. The T-55 was developed as an evolutionary improvement of the T-54, and much of the design credit goes to the same Soviet design teams involved in the post-World War II tank modernization effort. Alexander Morozov was the lead tank designer at the Kharkiv-Morozov Machine Building Design Bureau. He was a key figure behind the T-34, T-44, and the T-54. Though he was more involved in the earlier stages, the T-44 and 54, his design philosophy heavily influenced the T-55. Leonid Karstev was the chief designer at the massive tank factory that produced the T-54s and 55s. Karstev played a major role in transitioning the 54 into the 55, overseeing design revisions and production improvements, especially after Morozov moved on to work on the T-64. The T-55 had a few design goals. After observing rapid developments in NATO tanks, and especially after nuclear weapons became a battlefield consideration in the 1950s, Soviet leadership and engineers realized the T-54 needed modernization. The T-55 was not meant to be an entirely new tank. It was designed to refine, upgrade, and future-proof the proven T-54 design. In terms of improving nuclear survivability, its goal was to equip the tank with NBC, nuclear, biological, and chemical protection, which the T-54 lacked. The T-55 was the first Soviet tank to include the PAD system, which automatically sealed the crew compartment in the event of a nuclear blast and filtered contaminated air. To enhance crew safety and reliability, they improved the engine cooling, fire suppression, and electrical systems for better reliability in harsh combat conditions. They also reworked the ammunition storage to reduce a fire risk, which it's been seen through the years that the latter didn't work that well. Their most improved concept was to simplify maintenance and mass production. Soviet doctrine emphasized mass production and simplicity. The T-55 design aimed to be easier to build, maintain, and train crews on, especially for the Warsaw Pact allies and Third World clients. Many components were interchangeable with the T-54, easing logistical burdens. In terms of increasing firepower and tactical effectiveness, the T-55 still used the 100mm D-10T gun. Improvements in stabilization, reload speed, and sighting equipment enhanced its combat performance. Some variants also had infrared night vision and improved gunner optics over earlier models, while this night vision was still pretty rudimentary for the time. The philosophy was clear. A tank must be simple, reliable, and good enough to win by numbers and tactics, not complexity. The T-55 was a workhorse, not a technological showpiece. It was designed to be easily mass-produced, tactically effective on a large-scale armored warfare, resilient against nuclear threats, and most important, exportable to Soviet allies and client states. Simple, rugged, and reliable. The T-55 was mechanically reliable and simple to repair in the field. In harsh environments such as deserts, jungles, and mountains, it could keep running where more complex tanks might break down. Crews could also be trained quickly, making it ideal for countries with limited resources and experience. With the T-55's low profile, it was harder to hit. It had a very compact design, making it harder to spot and hit compared to taller Western tanks. Because of this, though, the main gun severely lacked gun depression. Being the most mass-produced tank in history, its sheer numbers made it a potent threat. In wars like the Yom Kippur War in 1973, the Soviets and their allies could field hundreds of tanks at once, overwhelming technologically superior opponents by quantity in a coordinated assault. Many T-55s were retrofitted with new fire control systems, reactive armor, laser rangefinders, and thermal sights, especially in the 1980s and 1990s. Despite its strengths, the T-55 showed serious vulnerabilities in high-intensity conflict, especially against more modern NATO tanks and air power. In the Arab-Israeli wars, they were used extensively by Egypt and Syria. The T-55s were outclassed by Israeli Centurions and upgraded Shermans with superior firepower, optics, and coordination. The T-55 had poor night fighting capability, weak command and control integration, as well as being vulnerable to anti-tank missiles and airstrikes. In the Vietnam War, North Vietnam received hundreds of T-54s and T-55s, and Type 59s, which were their Chinese counterpart. They were used effectively in massed assaults like the Easter Offensive, but suffered hefty losses against U.S. air power, TOW missiles, and ARVN M48 tanks. Still, they showed the tank's durability and utility in jungle environments. Skipping a few years, in the Gulf War, Iraqi T-55s, along with Type 59s and T-72s, were massively outclassed by modern American M1 Abrams and British Challenger tanks. Thermal sights, superior fire control, and night fighting capability of Western tanks allowed them to destroy T-55s before they could even see the enemy. T-55s were effectively obsolete by this point against top-tier NATO armor. In short, the T-55s were best when used in large numbers, crews with decent training against infantry or light armor, and low-intensity or asymmetric warfare. They struggled immensely against modern tanks, coordinated air and ground assaults, and anti-tank guided missiles or advanced optics. The legacy of the T-55 is massive and enduring. It's not only one of the most widely used tanks in history, but a symbol of Cold War-era armored warfare, influencing tank design, doctrine, and production strategies worldwide. It formed the background of Soviet and Warsaw Pact armored forces from the 1950s into the 80s. Exported to over 50 countries from Vietnam to Angola, Syria, and Cuba, and even used by both sides in some conflicts. The T-55 had a lasting influence on tank design, with an emphasis on simplicity and mass production. It is also easy to train on, cheap to produce, and tough enough to fight in bad conditions. The T-55 also set a precedent for upgrading old tanks instead of replacing them outright. Modernization kits have kept many T-55s semi-relevant for decades with reactive armor, rangefinders, thermal sights, and new diesel engines or autoloaders. The T-55 is also in use today. It's in active use in North Korea, Cuba, Yemen, Sudan, Syria, as well as Vietnam and Angola. It's been used in recent conflicts such as the Syrian Civil War, Yemen, as well as the current Russia and Ukraine war, where Russia pulled T-54s and 55s from storage to use as mobile artillery or decoys, showing their age, but also how deep reserve stocks still influence modern conflict. They're also used for static defense, police and border patrol duties, training vehicles, and in some cases converted into armored recovery vehicles, firefighting tanks, or anti-riot vehicles.